Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Herstory, or Her Story Community Voices. I'm your host, Taylor Ford, and today's guest is a brilliant woman, the current treasurer for the local chapter of the NAACP, and a close friend of mine, Miss Jennifer Coffin.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Taylor, for having me.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be on. So, first I wanted to mention is that we've got an interesting thing in common. My first job out of college was a bank teller for CBBC. And I know that you're retired now, but you used to work in the banking industry.
Correct.
Were you just really good at numbers, or is it just something that you actually enjoyed, or a little combination of both?
Well, Taylor, to be honest, right out of college, I needed a job.
Yeah.
The loans started coming in, and I ended up in banking and just stayed through it. I enjoyed it. I like working with people and the numbers. I enjoyed it.
Well, the fact that you're the treasurer for the NAACP just goes to prove how good you are with the math. And I know that Reverend Estelle brags on you all the time about it.
Thank you, Taylor. Thank you. I do. I enjoy it.
I was good at math in school, but I wouldn't say it was my favorite thing. So I'm always curious about people who end up making mathematics in any form their career, if it's just something that they end up doing or if it's something that they sought out.
Well, the numbers are always the same. 2 + 2 is always. So you've got that much going for you already. The numbers never change.
And there's so few objective realities.
Yes.
There's, for better or worse, everything's subjective.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, it's something else that we've been talking about, because we got to chat a few weeks ago when I asked you to do this. You said your grandsons have been running you ragged. They both play baseball?
Both play baseball. The 3-year-old is in T-ball.
Oh.
So, after about 10 minutes, they're playing in the dirt. But he's pretty good. And the oldest one is 9, and he's in travel ball. And that takes a lot of time.
I can imagine lots of, is it out of city or out of state games?
They're mostly in Knoxville now, but through the summer they'll start traveling. So it's very competitive. I tell my daughter they don't have time to be children.
Yeah.
They're competitive at 9 and 3. That's so unheard of to me.
I kind of feel the same way. It's no shame on anybody who has their kids in sports. It's a good thing to do, keep them active, keep them engaged with other kids. But I feel like there is a balance you got to strike.
It is. And you'd be surprised now. Of course, I'm old school. They tell me this all the time. I just don't think they should be playing on Sundays.
I get that, especially if you're religious and especially if you're Christian.
But they do. They do.
That is one of those things that's generationally divisive, I guess.
It is.
I'm taking it that this is an argument you and your daughter have had before.
Yes, she's like, Mama, either you're going or you're not. But we can't go. And I have a problem with it. I just like for them to be involved in some parts of church sometimes.
I get that.
Yes.
It's like I said, sports are communal, but a big part of church is communal as well. So I can understand wanting to be involved with them.
They're busy. They are busy.
Well, the reason I bring that up is because I wanted to know if they get their athleticism from you or if that's just the look you're giving me.
Their mother and their grandfather. How about?
Gotcha.
Not me. No, not me.
I'm right there with you. I was a bookworm. I have the athletic capability still today of a paraplegic sloth. That is not something I've ever been good at.
Enjoy it, but I wasn't as good as they are.
Gotcha.
Let's just say that.
Did you play any sports with school?
I played basketball.
That's awesome.
And my daughter did too. And my other daughter did too. So.
And you've got 2 daughters.
I have 2 daughters.
Gotcha.
35 and 25.
That does not seem right to me.
Well, you know what happened.
So you kind of you needed a job out of college. You had school loans. Numbers came easy to you. So
that, Taylor, it's what my mother always used to say. It's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
And I knew a man who worked at the bank, and he knew I was just out of school, and he said, "You want a job?"
Wow.
Now, it's up to you to prove you can do it when you get there.
Yeah.
But the door was opened because I knew him. So I tend to think sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know.
It is. We like to pretend that we've moved past nepotism.
We have not.
No.
We have not.
Even nowadays, I know that, especially people even older than, the generation above yours, that they still think that you can just walk in anywhere with your resume and get a job that way, and that's not how it works anymore. But it does, depending on who you know, still.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I've hired plenty of people that I may not have necessarily hired, but I got a call. Will you do this or will you do that? So.
And I've definitely made connections that made me connections and so on.
Exactly.
And it's not fair. People should be judged on their merit.
It isn't. But if you get in the door, it's up to you to show what you can do.
I agree with that.
You got to get in the door first.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. That was just having a conversation online with someone about the Nepo baby thing, about, movie stars whose parents were famous. I can't remember who it was I was watching, but they made a comment like that, they got in the door because their parents were famous, but they're where they are because they're good actors. They're not going to pretend that they wouldn't have had those opportunities without their parents, but they're the ones who kept the calls coming in.
Prove themselves. That's true, though. Sad as it is, it's true.
But I'm glad you lucked out, because I know a lot of college students then and now did not have that kind of fortune.
But you know how that happened? My mother taught school for years.
Really?
So this guy that called me was one of her students.
That's amazing. What subject did you teach?
She was second grade.
Oh.
And see, she taught before the schools integrated.
Really? So did you teach in Alcoa?
Well, it was Hall then.
Gotcha.
It was Hall. So then she ended up going to Alcoa Elementary, but the majority of her years were at Hall.
So she would have been a teacher in the 40s and 50s? Or even before that? Gotcha.
Yes.
Yeah. That's the other thing. Everyone likes to think, oh, yeah, Jim Crow and segregation, that was a long time ago. No, we are 2 generations removed from it.
That's right. I went to the all-black school.
Yeah.
So for 3 years.
I was going to ask this later on, but I'll bring it up now because it's relevant. Counting people who identify as being 2 or more races, Black people make up less than 5% of Blount County. Now, but they still make up 25% of the city of Alcoa. And people like to pretend we're not still segregated. People like to pretend that that's something that we got over. And anybody who's ever lived more than maybe 3 or 4 years in Blount County knows better.
Right.
Or they're just pretending.
But now, when I was young, Alcoa was the majority of a certain, they call it 13th Street, a certain part of Alcoa was completely Black.
Yeah.
You go through there now, and it's Latinos, Caucasians, Black. You would never know that it was a Black community. You would not. It's changed that much. It has changed that much. And when you have people moving in, especially people of color, they don't necessarily go there.
No, they don't have the baggage that we have. I think that's a good thing, because outside experiences always have that. They are able to cut through those tried and true, here's how it's always been ways. They bring their own sometimes, but they don't have the same mental hang-ups that a lot of people have just because they're from a specific region.
Right.
I think that that's good to have.
They come in here demanding more.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think we settle.
I think that's right, especially women of color, especially women in general, but women of color especially. I feel like you've been put in a position where you have to be happy with what you've got, or at least that's what the world tells you.
That's what the world tells us.
Exactly.
But then, of course, we are about to get the title that we are the most despised group of people, Black women.
I believe it.
We're the most feared, even more than Black men now. We're the most feared because we're more threatened. We'll stand up and really kind of push forward and say what we want, and it's not as much repercussion on us as it may be a Black man. Yeah. So we can kind of get a little further than they can, but it's still a challenge sometimes.
I mean, the fact that the angry Black woman stereotype still exists is just heinous. It's you dare to be treated like a human being, not even special in any way, but just bare minimum human rights, and you're angry and you're violent.
That's it. I was reading a book the other day that was depicting why Black women act like they do, and it dates all the way back to slavery. I know people, we're so tired of hearing that, we're so tired, but the strength that we have to have, raising our children by ourselves, because for a long time ago, they were sold off, snatched off. And some of those ideas still exist today. You wouldn't think they do, but they do. Some of those ways some of that thought patterns, it still exists today.
Generational trauma is the thing.
It is.
And especially in racial communities.
It is. And you can't get any help for it if you don't have it, so the world says.
Yeah.
Or that, you all, what?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you didn't do that. You should be over that.
That infuriates me. I can't imagine how it feels being a Black woman and hearing that. From my end, I just want to slap people in the face and say, how do you think it felt going through it? You think you're tired of this?
We have to tell my 9-year-old grandson, don't go certain places with your hood up. Don't, your hood, don't, you be respectful. Don't do this, don't do it. It's a lot of things we have to tell them. But at 9. But that is the blessing about Alcoa City schools, because all those kids grow up together. And they don't realize it's prejudice until they get out of high school. And that's the way we were. We grew up at Alcoa. Everybody loved everybody. But then the minute you hit that college campus, you're like, oh, this is, of course, we were taught, things to look out for. But it's still so very blatant.
It is. And I feel like I can't speak for all white people, obviously, any more than you can speak for all Black people, but I feel like a lot of white people dance around it. Even if they understand that racism is a problem, they feel like they're contributing to it if they even mention it.
And it's not their fault. It's just uncomfortable. They were brought up a certain way, and, they don't know how to navigate through.
Everybody is biased. I think that everybody has some degree of bigotry. Exactly. That's how we are. Exactly. It's what you do to unlearn it that matters.
Exactly. That's just the way we were brought up in the South.
Exactly. I had the exact opposite experience of you, which was my best friend in college, or one of my best friends in college was a Black woman from LA. Best friend in high school, she was a Black Jewish woman. Yeah. She had a fascinating story. She was also Black, Jewish, and bisexual. So she had, coming from all angles. Okay. She had a very rough time. But I was one of those dumb white girls who thought, oh, racism is over. It's fine. Because I had a Black friend, and that meant that everything was fine. And then the year I started college is when the Black Lives Matter protests started, and I had to wake up real quick. And
I substitute. And I can tell some children, I can, grab a child's hand. Now, this doesn't happen a lot, just kindergartners, and they will snatch their hand and look at their hand and look at me. And I'm like, is something wrong? No. Now, these are kindergartners. But then you have some that will just come and love on you and hug on you. But that child doesn't know what he's doing. No. Or I have had some students, I may tell them, you can go to the restroom, and then they'll go to another teacher that looks like you and said, she said it's okay. Is it really okay? Oh my gosh. So you learn it very early, and it's not their fault. No. It's not their fault.
Racism is taught.
It's taught. Yeah. It's taught.
The fear is inherent. I think that we're just naturally programmed. Something in not every human's brain, but a lot of humans' brains make them see something that looks even remotely different to their experience and think this isn't safe. But that becomes a taught behavior. That's not something that we just do naturally. The fear is there, but the way we act on it isn't.
And I am a firm believer. If you haven't lived it, you can't speak on it.
Exactly.
So, I had a lady tell me the other day, well, Black women, they think this and I said, you can't stop. Let me stop. You have no idea. You can't tell me what I think. No. But she apologized profusely because she realized she was doing that, and she apologized, but it's still out there being.
Back to the settling comment, that feels like one of those that you have to settle for somebody apologizing when we should just demand they don't do it to begin with.
Right. But it wasn't her fault. I really liked her. And she was just having a conversation. She had no idea it was offensive. She had no idea she was telling me how I should feel. Yeah. She really did not mean any harm. She didn't.
I've run into that before as well, with men especially. I think men who are just getting into feminism and just now realizing, oh, I might have contributed to women suffering.
Right.
They get so excited about it. Like, did you know this was a thing that women go through?
Right.
And we're like, yes, we've lived through it. We're aware.
Exactly.
But they're so excited to have learned something new. I think that they want to share it with everybody. That they become evangelists for the movement. Yeah. And then don't realize I am the movement.
That's right. And you can't blame people for that. The blame comes in when you don't try to do anything about it.
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel as well.
Or you want to act like it didn't ever happen. No, you want to just sidestep it. Or, I've had, when I was in banking and I was an officer and a manager, and they would say, well, you need to go talk to the manager about an issue. And they would come over to my office and they'd look in and they'd say, you're the manager? I said, yes. Can I help you? And they'd be like, do you even know how to do this? I said, sir, I'll help you or not. It's up to you. So these type of experiences are ongoing to this day. My daughter is a nurse. Oh, well, she was a nurse. She's a nurse practitioner now, but she was a nurse. And at UT Hospital, she was in the heart. She was a specialist in hearts. She went in this man's room and he said, are you the one cleaning my room today? She said, I'm your nurse. He said, well, where did you go to school? And she said, I went to Tennessee State University, an HBCU, a historically Black college. He said, maybe you need to get me someone else. She said, I certainly will, sir. This wasn't even 5 years ago. So I can go on with stories like this and on and on and on. So it's still very relevant, still very blatant. So
I think, not to be punny about it, people have a very black and white mentality. They feel like, well, people aren't slaves anymore, so it must have gotten better.
Right.
Or we're not segregated anymore, so it must have gotten better. You can criticize something for still being bad while still acknowledging that it has gotten better.
Exactly. I'll tell you a story about the census lady.
Oh, go for it.
My mother inherited from her parents a 100-acre farm in Louisville, Tennessee. We still have some of that farm. So the census lady came and she said, I need to speak to Jennifer Coffin, blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, that's me. She goes down and she starts asking these questions. And she said, okay, this land, is this yours? I said, yes. What about the acreage around it? Is it yours? Yes. Now, ma'am, you really need to be telling the truth on the census. I said, I am telling you the truth. She said, is it someone else in the house I could speak with? Like she's talking to us. And I said, no, you need to talk to me. My husband's in there. She said, you know what? Let me just come back because you're not really telling the truth. I said, okay.
That is...
Yes.
It's not surprising, but it's still shocking, if that makes sense. That it's... these things happen, or at least if you're paying attention, these things happen, but...
You don't know anyone it happens to so much as to...
That's the thing. Yeah.
And I am, and I'm not bragging or being bodacious, I am a college graduate and was an officer in a banking world. Think about who people may think are lesser than me.
Yeah. And all the slurs that go with it.
Exactly. Because you don't know that. If you weren't my friend, you would not know that. So I may receive some of those slurs because you don't really know who I am. And sometimes you don't care.
And that's another thing.
It's a privilege.
It is. And that's another one of those things. People think that privilege means that you're a bad person. It means that it doesn't mean that you had it easier. It means that you didn't have it harder because of something.
Exactly.
Because there are plenty of poor white men who also couldn't get into schools because their daddies couldn't afford it, didn't have an education because the school system failed them. But race wasn't one of the things holding them back. gender wasn't one of the things holding him back.
See, you could be, Taylor, you're a white woman, you could be from Russia, you could be bisexual, you could be all of that, but you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
They look at me, and the first mark is, oh, she's black.
Mm-hmm.
The second mark, oh, she's a woman.
Yeah.
So, see, they can look at you and they don't know all of that about you, but they look at me and there are 2 check marks automatically.
Your history and everything that they want to think about you is on your skin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They read it on your face.
That's right.
And to your point, we just talked the episode that came out the week before we're airing this, or the week that we are airing this. Mm-hmm. I had my biological mother talking on the podcast, and I'm Vietnamese. I don't look it at all.
We've spoken about that, yes.
But that's another thing that doesn't get talked about as white passing privilege and colorism of, lighter skinned black women often have an easier time than darker skinned black women in the same way that educated black women. And it's just silly.
When I was working at the bank, I had braids in my hair. And because I'll ask the president, do you mind me wearing the braids? And he's like, Jennifer, no. But it's awful. I had to even feel like I had to ask.
Yeah, it is.
But he was so good. He said, no, go ahead and, some places you can't.
Mm-hmm. I've, again, obviously not had that experience myself because I have the privilege of looking the way I do, but I've had plenty of black friends who've told me about their experiences with that too. And like you said, I wouldn't know that if they weren't my friends.
Another example, our church Sunday school class that I did years ago, I would take them to the park. So I was giving out the candy at the park. A police officer comes up beside us, turns the lights on, jumps out of the car, snatches the bag from me. Are you giving these kids drugs?
Oh my gosh.
I said, it's candy. Meanwhile, you traumatized the children because they're 7, 8, and 9. And he never apologized or said a word.
Just oh.
And I was just coming from work, so I had to sit up. I mean, I was dressed, but oh no, I was giving them drugs.
It must be so exhausting.
We're taught, to expect this. This is coming down the road. How to handle this, how to do that. So we're aware of all this. If it doesn't happen, good.
Yeah.
But
it's one of those things, like, speaking of male friends I've had, having to explain to them the things that girls are taught from a young age about: carry your keys with you when you walk to your car, don't do this, don't wear that, even though it wouldn't make it your fault if anything happened.
Right.
They don't want to open the door for anybody to criticize you or say, well, what was she wearing? What was she drinking?
Exactly.
And it's, I'm sure, just as hard for people who've never heard this side of the conversation to hear black people talk about how they've had to be raised to, don't wear this or the cops might come after you. Don't do this. Don't get angry. Don't raise your voice because people will assume things about you.
Exactly. It's a protection thing. You have to tell them.
Yeah.
And by telling them, it almost makes them think, it makes them put their guard up. Because I can remember telling my grandson things, and he's like, you're racist. I said, no, I'm trying to tell you what to look, Again, they're young. They all love each other. Yeah. They don't see it until.
And like you said, they could be blessed and have a wonderful teenage life, early 20s, up to the 30s, up to adulthood finished.
Exactly.
And never encounter this. But there's that one person. And then you need to be prepared for it. And it's awful that the world needs them to be prepared for that.
It is. It is. And I don't know how many times I have been called out of my name for someone else, and it could just be 2 of us there. And they'll come in and, well, how's so-and-so, how's so-and-so? And I'm saying, I'm not these, they're over there. And they're like, oh.
And they expect you to just know it because, oh, you're all the same or whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah.
But again, that's taught. It's like learning our timetables. We were taught. When somebody teaches you that and you hear it, it's just part of you. They can't help it.
I would argue that they can, but you do bring up a very good...
do something about it.
Yeah.
But
you can't help when you're taught.
Exactly.
That's
Really.
true.
That's right. That's right.
You have a lot more grace for people than I do. I'm a very vitriolic person.
You can afford to.
Exactly.
You can afford to have more grace than I can.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's another thing, is that I can be mad about this and I can be loud about it. Mm-hmm. You're not afforded that privilege. Mm-hmm. Just as you mentioned earlier, Black men aren't afforded the privilege of being loud about it either, because they get loud, they get shot. Mm-hmm. And that's just reality.
Mm-hmm. Still to this day. Sad but true. Regardless of who they are. Look how many stars are picked up.
Yeah.
Athletes. Not the congressman, but well-known people you would think are well-known. But at the end of the day,
I just saw something on the news about that, actually. Gloria Johnson made a comment, I believe it's on Instagram, about how she and Representative Justin Pearson had said the exact same thing. Hers got news coverage, his didn't. Mm-hmm. And she had the... how do I want to put this? She had the moral fortitude to say this isn't right. Mm-hmm. She didn't have an ego about it. She didn't go, yes, I'm correct about this, and I'm glad that you're talking about it. It was, no, he said it too.
Right. But
I think that's another issue that white people and just non-Black people in general run into, that if they don't want to be racist, they usually go all the way around and they're like, well, I want to be a savior.
Mm-hmm. And that's, yes. And that's not the answer either.
No. It's still infantilizing.
It is. And I don't know why they do that. I don't know why a person would do that. Do you feel badly for me or something? As to why would a white person do that?
I mean, I'm sure I have, and I hope that my friends who are listening to this hold me to account and tell me about it. The best I can figure, talking to other people who are learning about their racism and learning what they were taught and unlearning what they were taught, mm-hmm. is exactly what you said, is that they feel so guilty that they want to overcompensate.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if that's them trying to come up with a reason and they don't really know what it is themselves, but that's what I've heard a lot of. But yeah, I think that it does come across as you still see me as less than, because you went from treating me as less than in a bad way to treating me less than like a child that needs help.
Mm-hmm. I don't need your validation. You didn't do it to me, so you shouldn't feel bad about it. I just want you to recognize it.
Yeah.
And see why some of the attitudes and all are like they are on both sides. Mm-hmm. I get it. But I don't need your validation.
No. Everybody needs an ally. Mm-hmm. Nobody needs a savior.
No. Because again, you don't really know what I've gone through. No. I can only tell you, or you can assume. But you don't really
know. No. Mm-hmm. I can listen and I can read and I can do whatever I can do, but I will never live in your skin. I will never walk in your shoes.
But you're at least trying to understand and know why we may feel this way, or you're talking and you're pointing out, this isn't right. I mean, how much longer are we going to keep doing this? Mm-hmm. You're going that drink. I'm sure you're cut down a lot, and I'm sure you're talked about a lot, or, oh, forget that, Taylor. But at least you were making the effort, and that counts for something. It does.
I hope it does, but it's to your point about I have the privilege to be loud about it. Mm-hmm. If you have a privilege, I feel like it's your responsibility to use it. Mm-hmm. It's a use it or lose it situation. Okay. You can't get rid of a lot of privilege. If you can do that, like if you're super wealthy, do what you can, give away to charities or something. Mm-hmm. But you can't get rid of your lived experience. You can't get rid of what skin color you have to be born with. You can't get rid of your ethnicity. You're right. So all you can do is use what you got.
You're right. Mm-hmm. We used to say or think that, we were just treated just so badly. But people look back through history. No one has had the history like the American Indians. They're almost a wiped out people. Yeah. Nobody says a word about it. Nobody says a word. We say, they're not attacking us now. They're on the brown man. And I don't mean us. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I know exactly what you mean, yeah.
Now the violence is toward the brown man. And it just always seems to be someone's in the field of attack.
Yeah.
And I'm so afraid women are going to be next.
Well, they're already going after trans people, and it's, yeah.
Again, your skin color, who you sleep with, that's crazy.
Yeah. It doesn't make
those are real prejudices.
It is.
Crazy to me.
No, I feel the same way. But what I was going to bring up is that, unfortunately, I have heard plenty of people bring up Native Americans, but only to shut down Black people.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only time I've ever heard them brought up is, well, these Black people, they complain so much, but the Native Americans, they were genocided out. As if most Black Americans weren't brought here against their will.
Exactly. I think everyone needs to look at roots. Everyone.
Yes.
Everyone needs to look at roots.
It traumatized me, but I watched it.
It traumatized me too, but my parents had me sit there and watch it. It's eye-opening. It's telling. It's revealing.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, I try to show it to my children. And they're like, oh, Mama. But see, that's how the generations are getting away. But it is our responsibility to tell our children. Mm-hmm. We shouldn't have to wait for it to be in a book it's our responsibility, really. You know, we can't blame this man or that man. That's our responsibility. Because nobody can tell it like we can.
Yeah.
So you can tell what you think or tell what was told to you. But we lived it again. So we should be telling it and teaching it. But we don't do a very good job.
And I wonder if it's because of how much trauma is involved in doing it, or if it's just because you've been squashed down by white and other non-Black people who don't want you to talk about it, or what do you think it is?
Just a lackadaisical attitude, to tell the truth. And that's sad. That's sad. Mm-hmm. But I really do think that. You cannot blame a white person. A white person can't tell you what to teach your child at home. That's crazy.
True.
You can't be blamed for that. That's on us.
I agree, but I have such a hard time with it because it puts the burden of proof and the burden of education on the people who suffered. And you're right. No one else can talk about it the way you can because nobody else lived it like you can. You have, but
I was in a class. I don't know, I was in this class, but I was in a class and it was several different people, different nationalities, and they would ask each group of people, like people are you from Ireland? They would stand up. You would be able to say what family. Well, the people from Spain, if you had Spanish roots, stand up. They would say what family, what region, what this. Then they got to the Black people.
Yeah.
They said, stand up. Are you from Africa? Well, most likely, most of us were. Well, what tribe?
Oh, dear Lord.
You could hear a pin drop because we don't know.
Yeah.
We're a race of people that don't know. We just know we came from, you don't know we don't know.
Yeah.
Every other nationality. There was even some Asian people in there, and they knew what part of Japan they were from, what group of people. Mm-hmm. We were the only group of people that didn't know.
That's another part that's left out, even, to the point. Native Americans usually know what nation they were from.
They know the tribe. Mm-hmm. They do. To this day, I think they do.
Yeah. But unless they were adopted out, there's another.
No, that's true.
That's a big problem.
Another story. Ugh.
Yeah, no. But yeah, that's, speaking of generational trauma, another part of it is that you have a history, but your history starts with violence. Your history doesn't start with, here's the music my tribe made, here were our customs, here were the religions that we believed in. It started with a boat.
Very brutal. Yeah. Yes. Things are a little better.
Again, I agree, but it's hard to say that when it's still this bad.
But you can't wallow in it. You cannot. That's nothing we're taught. You still have to keep going forward, You cannot just wallow in it and cry about it. You have to pick up and keep going. You do. Educate yourself. Get involved. It's a way you can get around some of it.
Yeah. I guess that's maybe another place that the white guilt comes from, because they've never had, or we've never had the trauma that way. So thinking about trying to get over that, even from my own perspective, is wild. I don't think I have the resilience to do that. And at the end of the day, I think we all do, but...
And you didn't do it.
Oh, yeah.
See, that's a saving kind of, well, I wasn't the one that really did it. Maybe my ancestors did, but I can't speak for my ancestors. But maybe I could do something to help now, or to correct. But you didn't do it.
No, and I would not have wanted it back then either, because I would have known it was bad then too. Mm-hmm. Time does not change morality.
Right. Exactly.
But
right.
To your point, all I can do is just try to make it better now.
Yes.
That's all anybody can do.
But that's commendable that you even are discussing it. Some people don't even want to discuss it.
I don't know if I consider it commendable. I consider it like bare minimum humanity, what everybody deserves.
But you don't have to do that. Not really.
I mean, given some of the people who are famous right now, correct. Yeah. There are plenty of people who get away with not doing the bare minimum humanity every single day of their lives. And I have this reaction to a lot of people in general when they refuse to learn. And I love education. I love learning new things. I love being corrected because it gives me the opportunity to grow.
Right.
If I wasn't constantly learning, I would hate life. But I have the same thing with people who refuse to analyze their own morality. Why don't you want to do better? That's the question I always ask them, is if you could be better, what's stopping you from trying? And I've never had a good answer to that. Never had a good answer to why don't you want to keep learning either.
Because settle. They're settled. And if you think nothing's wrong with you, why am I trying to learn anything, Taylor? I'm fine.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing wrong. No, I'm saying that's probably what they're thinking. I'm fine. Why do I have to do that? I didn't do that. I'm fine.
Yeah, like it's a problem for me, but not them.
I have a black friend.
Oh my gosh.
That's what you hear all the time.
It is.
I got a black friend. Well, it's the last time a black person was in your home.
Yeah.
Try that. But, I mean,
it makes, and to your point, this is your lived experience. It makes me want to cry.
Oh, no.
But it's not because I've done something, just because this is still happening and there's very little I can do about it on a personal level.
And this, I hate to start talking about this, administration has just brought out things that were already there.
Yeah.
And they just feel bold enough to say it or do it or express it. So that's what we're dealing with now. The thought pattern was always there.
Yeah.
It was just guarded.
I think that's, if anything good could be said about this regime, it's that it has ripped the hoods off people's faces, especially the ones that are white and made of bed sheets.
Exactly.
That was another conversation I was having about, when was that? It was a few years ago. It was during the Me Too movement, when women were talking about the sexual abuse they'd encountered at work.
Yes.
And I can't remember how it came up, but I said something that got some people's guard put up, and I had to explain myself. I said I was really worried about Me Too becoming a broad national movement. And I think that they were afraid that I was going to be one of those anti-feminist women who's like, oh, women should just shut up and deal with it. My concern was that the more women talk about it, the sneakier men will get about hiding things. And obviously women need to be raising their voices. That was not the concern. The concern is that the more we talk about it and the more that it became a real thing that people didn't want to be associated with, men weren't going to stop. They were just going to find sneakier ways to get around it.
Manipulate how they do it.
Exactly. Yeah. That's it. And I feel like, to a degree, racism has gone through the same thing, that it's always been there, like you said, but there became an association that racism was bad, so they learned to hide it and cloak it. They didn't change who they were. They just got better about keeping it behind closed doors. And a related conversation was Trevor Noah had a really brilliant interview talking about how he prefers South African racists to American racists, because a South African racist will come to your face, I'm paraphrasing him here, and say, oh, I don't think that you're much of a human, I don't really care about you. And then you just deal with it, and that's the experience, that's your relationship, you move on from there. But a racist in America will say, of course you're a human, you're my friend, and then vote against your rights, refuse to treat you as a person. misidentify you with somebody who looks just like you, get your name wrong, say, oh, I'm not going to pronounce that, or I can't pronounce that correctly, get onto you for having unprofessional, whatever they want to get onto you for.
You're right. You're right.
I think that's what put that idea in my head, was the fear of, oh, talking about these things doesn't necessarily always make them better. Sometimes it just makes the oppressors better at hiding them. And I hate that I got such a jaded opinion about that, because I would want that to be an empowering thing, that, oh, good, victims are talking about this. Oh, good, people are listening to them. And I do think it does a lot of good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying we should hide in the shadows or pretend or have to do subterfuge. I just hate that with every good thing that we do and every step forward, there's a half a step back.
It is. But it's just happening lately. You know what I'm saying? It's just getting bad late.
It wasn't there before.
It wasn't as prevalent before.
That's the difference. People see it now.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. You sure do. You sure do. You know what you're doing. If that's the way you look at it. At least you know what you're doing. But the African Black man, almost, I have heard this, despises the American Black man, because they say we have been afforded so much, the education.
Really?
Yes. And you all did not take advantage of it. And you all have allowed other races to manipulate you, push you down, keep you from doing things. But they were the majority. But these are South Africans saying this.
Yeah.
And they're saying, we came through apartheid. Why is it you all can't do any better?
Oh, my gosh. That feels very victim blamey to me. I'd love to have someone from South Africa talk on that.
Oh, they really. I went to Africa last year.
Where'd you go? Was it South Africa?
Ghana.
Gotcha.
And that was always on my bucket list, to go to Africa. And I went to Ghana, and the history was just astounding. Oh, because that's where your first slave ships went out of. And, they showed you the castles and the slave dungeons.
Oh, my gosh. Oh.
It was eye-opening. It was an experience. I can't begin to talk about it, but they really shared a lot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think all Black people should visit Africa one time.
I think that's very important. And even if not that, at least go to an old colonial home in the U.S. that's a museum.
Yes.
I think that might have been the first time I had to really grapple with racism in a way that wasn't distanced from me. We took a field trip to D.C. when I was in 8th grade, and we went to Robert E. Lee's house. And, of course I knew he was the bad guy. He was the Confederate general. But that's as far as you get. You don't learn all the slaves he had. You don't learn about how he treated his slaves. But then you get to his house and you get into the basement and you see the fingerprints that are still on the wall.
I went with my youngest daughter on a field trip to Thomas Jefferson's place. And they were just talking about, he was this, he was that, and talking about his art and blah, blah, blah. Went down in his slave quarters. And my youngest daughter said, because I had told her, and she said, well, where did Sally Hemings stay? And it was just dead silence. The man that was giving the lecture skipped right over what she had asked and went on talking about something else. Okay, class, let's move from here. And she's like, Mama, they didn't say anything about that.
That's another one where I'd want to know, was it because he was embarrassed? Did he just genuinely not know the answer? Or did he just disregard her out of his hand?
I just think he didn't want to get into all that now. We're trying to tell good stuff about Thomas Jefferson, and you want to bring that up. So,
and back to the nuanced conversation that if something's good, we can't talk about how it was bad. He might have wrote the Declaration of Independence for rich white men. But women and Black people were not included in that.
Had a whole nother but
with generations that never saw a penny of his wealth.
But they weren't taught that before they went in school. I had told her about Sally.
And I guess that goes to your point that if you're not doing the job to educate, that because our schools are so backwards, they're not teaching anything. And it's gotten worse now with the removal of DEI.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So it is our responsibility. We've got to teach it. We can't wait on someone else to do it. We can't. If you want to help us do it and all that, we appreciate you. But it's not your fight, so to speak.
We can be the backup, but we're not leading the charge.
Exactly.
And also, and this is true of anybody who's teaching anything about any group that they don't belong to, know your stuff. Don't come in and talk about things you're not educated about.
Someone may call them on it.
Yes.
Just like she did.
Exactly. As well she deserved to do so, because that's a very important part of his history, your history, our collective history.
It was disregarded. Well,
that is wild to me.
We had read about it, so.
Where did you read about it? Did you read about it in? Well,
my sister she's retired. She's a third grade teacher in Oak Ridge. So when they had Black History Month, her programs were just just not your usual Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. No, she dig deeper.
Oh, good.
And she had said, "What to the girls' was that?" Because I didn't know either.
That's something else. We don't learn about our local history either. I'm going to be shamefully honest and admit that I don't remember her name off the top of my head. But I recently learned from an archivist at the county courthouse that a Black woman saved all the county's records from being burned when the Confederate soldiers marched in here too and burned half the city down.
It seems like I've heard that, but I don't know her name either.
And that just proves the point. We're not taught these things. Yeah,
they're not important, Taylor.
Yeah, that's not history. That's not real stuff.
She just saved them from being burned up.
No, she's not the one who wrote them. That was educated white men.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You have to laugh about it, you know?
It is. And I know I'm being very sarcastic about it, but that's...
You're fine. You're fine.
Well, we've talked about a lot of the limitations that Black women in general have had to deal with. But what about you specifically? Let's say that, what was your dream of being as a kid? Did you want to be a ballerina? Did you want to be an astronaut? What did you want to do?
I wanted to just be a teacher. I really did. But now that you said a ballerina,
yes,
my youngest daughter wanted to do that.
Really?
But she didn't have the look.
Yeah, that's what I was afraid of.
She didn't have the look. And we could even pull her hair up and all, but they said, she's just not gonna, she won't like it, is what we were told. And she loved it.
I bet she would have been an excellent ballerina.
Well, we don't know that. Because I wasn't going to let my child be subjected to all that hurt.
Oh, yeah.
And distance, because she really wasn't wanted. So I just said, no, let's just do something.
That is one of those other things to navigate, is when are you settling and when are you just knowing not to go where you aren't wanted? That's got to be a hard line to navigate.
But we have to tell ours that.
Yeah.
Especially as children, because their feelings get hurt and they're like, what? Why? Why don't they want me? Because remember, you grew up with everybody and everybody got along. And then when you got, well, what's wrong with me, Mama? No. So you just tell them.
Yeah.
As hard as it is, but. So we have to tell ours, think big, think outside of the box. You can do it. For us, the best thing in the world was Barack Obama being the president, because we have a role. We could tell our boys now, look,
you can become president.
You can do this. Yes. You don't have to play sports or rap or any of the things they think we do. That's the only thing we do. You can do more than that.
Yeah. And honestly, there's nothing shameful about any of that. It's just that's the holes you get pigeonholed into.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we've had conversations similar to that before, that if a woman wants to be a mother and that's what she aspires to be, there's nothing wrong with that. Motherhood is a brilliant thing to do, and it takes a lot of self-sacrifice, but that's not what we should be forced into doing.
No, she can do so much more and be a mother. That's what we all been doing all this time.
Yeah, and a Black man can be a rapper, but he can also be the president.
Right. I mean, that was just good for our children to see it. Good for our dogs. That's everybody to see it.
Was it like a weight was lifted to see somebody get elevated to that position that looked like you?
We never thought we would see it in our life. Never. It was just a glorious day. Oh, it was. You know, you felt like you were president because you felt like, oh, look what we've done. And it was just, it was so heartwarming. And then the older people, some of them just, because who would think? Yeah.
And they still remember. They still remember having to drink out of different water fountains.
Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's another thing that, speaking of the white guilt situation, I think that a lot of people nowadays are grappling with the fact that part of why we're here in this moment in time is that a bunch of people in this country got so mad that a black man became president that they decided to take it out on the whole entire rest of the country. Mm-hmm. I don't think they realize that that's how strong racism ran or how much hate came with it.
I'm telling you, Barack Obama lives rent-free in Trump's mind.
Mm-hmm. He lives rent-free in a lot of people's brains.
Him out, the name out, and I'm thinking, what are you talking about?
That man's not been president in a decade.
Mm-hmm. But that was a good thing, but I think that's part of, like you said, a punishment we're suffering for.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think it kind of proves the hypothesis I had about like the Me Too movement and talking about racism is that you take a step ahead and then you have to take a half step back.
Right. Yeah, that's right. And who ever heard of such in this day and time?
Something else that I think that American exceptionalism has done a bad job with us because we are very uneducated about our history, especially all of our history. But we also have this idea that we're the freest country in the world. We're the most whatever in the world. Other countries, even countries that aren't in Africa, have had black leaders before, have had women leaders before. We've only had one black leader and no women.
And no women.
Yeah.
No women, black or white. And I don't think we'll have any women anytime soon.
Unfortunately.
Yes. That's crazy.
But we have the gall to act like we're some enlightened beings over here.
All right.
Yeah. I wonder if that's part of maybe the distaste that Africans have toward black Americans.
Well, they just think we came over here and just let them. And you know that's not the case.
Yeah.
Because when I was over there, I asked the tour guide, well, were some of the chiefs selling some of their people or other groups to the slave owners? Well, yes, some. Of course they were.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't know where to go, how to get in or anything. So we had a part in that, or they did.
Oh, yeah.
But they sure think that we just came over here and just laid down and accepted everything they put out, everything, because they, well, I talk about South Africa, they lived through apartheid. But they were the majority. We're not.
Yeah.
We're not.
That is definitely a key difference, is that it's a lot easier to fight back when you've got the numbers. I mean, it's not always guaranteed because plenty of people have had the majority and then refused to act on it. But that's not been the case here. Not with this.
Here. And that pit of that light skin, dark skin still exists today.
It does. That's the thing that gets me. I think that was one of the other things that I did have to ask my black friends some questions about. Why is this a thing? And I mean, I got it in terms of course, white is seen as better than black because that's the key component of racism.
You are the better.
Yeah. But it boggled my mind that there are so many black people that cooperated with that mentality.
They still feel that way to this day.
Yeah.
Yes. And me personally, I'm thinking, why are black women wearing blonde wigs? It's to be accepted, to be a part of, to be more involved. But
it's like women wearing makeup in general. Sometimes you just do it because it's fun to do.
Right.
But sometimes you do it because you feel like that's the only way you'll be accepted. And the fact that so many black women feel like I have to look like this instead of that in order to be taken seriously.
Which they're getting away from that, which may be part of the threat.
I think
you don't see it as, you see the young girls, but the older, more established, they're getting kind of away from that.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen a lot of older generations of women not doing weaves anymore, not going to the salons and getting the presses. You look gorgeous with your braids. I love them.
But it's just there. And I had a girlfriend say, you know what, Jen, we're the ones that have a problem with our hair, not anybody else. We're the ones that have the problem with it. I say, yes, but why do we have the problem with it?
Yeah.
Because we've been taught this looks better than this. You can do this instead of this. Why don't you try to look this way instead of this way? Mm-hmm.
Is that generational trauma?
Mm-hmm.
And you were taught this as kids, and white kids weren't, especially if they didn't grow up in racist households. They weren't taught those things, so they don't know the history behind it. And to your point, that's another disservice, that we're not teaching people where racism came from or how it looks. That allows it to perpetuate as well.
And you don't really know how it is. Think about it.
No, I don't.
I mean, we don't until people open their mouths, and then it just spills out. And then maybe not. You know, there's institutional racism, and there are all types.
Yeah.
So you don't know unless you really dig down deep in, you know. I know when my husband and I went together, my only house loan, they said, well, you don't really have a down payment. I said, what? They told him that. He came back and told me because he didn't know. I said, we have 5 acres of land. Does that not? Well, is this really yours? Oh, well, okay.
The amount of questioning you have to go through.
Oh, yes. But for them to be bold enough to say it. But for someone who maybe didn't know. See, I was in banking, so I knew. Think about people who don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know what to ask. And this isn't just blacks. These are your brown people, your indigent people that just don't know to ask.
That's another thing that people need to get better about doing, is sharing what we have in common.
Yes.
The more we talk about what we've got in common, which is one of the goals of this podcast, the more we realize that, yeah, there are definitely certain things that you've experienced that I will never experience, and vice versa, I'm sure. But there's so much oppression that people just face in general, from the wealthy, from white people, if you're a race that isn't white passing or white in any way, from people who aren't straight, from people who aren't cisgendered.
Yeah.
There are all these groups that have commonalities, and the way that the people who oppress them continue to get away with it is that they convince those groups to infight.
That's it. That's it. But the thing is, we don't want to talk about what we have. We may have the same oppressions as you say, but then that means that you're equal to me.
And God forbid.
No, I'm better than you.
Of course.
I'm still not as low down as you are.
No.
We don't need to talk about that.
No. Because the moment you open that door, you start to think, oh, maybe I'm not this special person.
That's right. We're just alike, but no, we're not. So we don't.
I've got to keep my ego a little bit. I've got to keep some sense of pride.
That's it. That's it.
I've read a lot of studies, especially bell hooks, about the way that feminism presents itself in different races, and how what's empowering for white women isn't necessarily empowering for black women. The one that she brought up especially was about, for a white woman, it's impressive to be strong and athletic and masculine in certain ways.
Really?
Because, you know, that they're taught you've got to be in the home and you've got to have the 2.5 kids and the picket fence and the 50s style skirt. And what she wrote is that black women are taught that you've got to be strong and you've got to be resilient. So to give them peace, to give you a sense of femininity and gentleness, that's empowering for black women, because you don't get to experience that grace. And that was fascinating to read to me.
Now, repeat what you said about black women.
The way that bell hooks wrote about it is that black women are taught, like you said, have to be resilient, have to be strong, have to be tough, have to be all these things. The angry black woman stereotype exists. So to be told you can be gentle, you can be intelligent, you can be soft-spoken, you can be feminine, is all radical. Not been your experience? Gotcha.
No, because they do try to put out there that angry black woman, but that's where you won't listen to what we're saying, because you're angry. I don't want to hear you. I don't want to talk to you if you're angry, but that ain't always the case.
What is that term? Tone policing.
Yeah. See, or we're depicted like we we are so hard and we're so, no, we're just maybe more direct, some of us. And then every race has some that are and some that aren't.
Mhm.
You know, yeah, no, I just think we're taught, I know we were taught as women to get your education, be sure you and I could have the same job.
Yeah.
But I have to work a little bit harder.
Yes.
And be a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
I could be educated and you could be a high school graduate, but I still have to prove myself as being better than me.
And even then, only to get half the recognition I get. I read a seminar of books. There was a Harvard class that was free for a while, and I just went into a whole bunch of things. I read Malcolm X, I read Bell Hooks, I read a lot of Toni Morrison. Just, again, I will never have that experience, but the least I can do is educate myself.
Exactly. And that's wonderful you're doing that. You can empathize and all, but at least you're exposing yourself to it. You know what I mean? That means a lot, just to expose yourself. Be open and talk to people about it. But see, like you said, you don't look Vietnamese.
No.
If you did, you know some of the things I'm talking about.
I do, especially when COVID happened and the scare about Chinese people, especially. Because, of course, to a racist, every remotely Asian person is Chinese, just like every remotely Latino person is Mexican.
Right.
Right. My grandmother dealt with a lot of go back to where you came from, and you brought this here, it's your fault. And I remember a conversation that I was having with her, my biological mother, where she was talking about all this, and she leaned over and said, "Rhonda, do you think it'd be better if I told them I was Vietnamese and not Chinese?" And Rhonda had to take a step back, and she had to compose herself and said, "Mom, it doesn't matter to them."
Exactly. As sad as it is, that's exactly. I
hopefully learn. That's the thing that I hope that that's one thing, especially that this episode does for people, is get them to have uncomfortable conversations. You might put your foot in your mouth sometimes, but at least you're learning. And if you do, that doesn't say anything bad about you. It might say something bad about how you're raised.
And like I said, my grandson tells me maybe you're racist, but hey, I'm trying to prepare you.
Yeah. Is it not racist to talk about the truth?
Yeah. Yeah. But, it's a whole different culture. The way you would raise yours and the way you would raise ours, it just is.
Yeah. And even generationally, too. There are all sorts of factors.
Yes.
There's another comment that you made when you were talking about Barack Obama being elected president that stuck something with me. I feel like there's not just white guilt. I feel like there's an anger and a sort of jealousy because you celebrated like what you said was you celebrated like you were the ones who were elected president.
Oh, yes.
We've had
parties.
What is it, 43 white presidents? Because we've had two that did 2 terms, and nobody celebrated like that was, all white people won here. We don't have a sense of community. And I think that a lot of white people who haven't unpacked their racism yet feel very jealous of communities who have that.
Really? You think so?
I could be wrong. I could be very wrong, but I feel like...
I'm just saying, do you think that?
I think that that's a likely thing.
Okay.
I think that the way that I've heard people talk about things, there's nothing concrete, but a few experiences painted around in my brain that it feels like they feel like they want to belong to something.
Well, you know what struck me so oddly? Now, maybe I'm the only one that thought that. When Kamala Harris was running, I thought all women.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, the Black women and the sororities and whatnot. But I thought I heard some of the younger Caucasian women speaking, some of the older ones, but the polls didn't show that they voted.
I know. It was 92% of Black women and what was it, only 47% of white women? Something like that.
Yeah, but that isn't what was,
No, that's not how it presented itself.
No. But then here's the male chauvinist too, because the Black men didn't vote for her either. Threatening. That goes back to what I was saying. You're becoming the most threatening group of people.
I'm not glad you said that because it's an awful experience, but it does segue into another question I had for you. Do you feel like people relegate you to a category instead of seeing you as a whole person? Do you think that you have to choose between standing up as a woman versus standing up for a Black person or Black people in general? Do you feel like Americans don't especially here, don't make enough room for you to be both.
No. I'm black first, regardless. Then you're a woman.
That's fascinating to me, because if that was the case for the entire black community, and again, nobody's a monolith, that's not a thing.
Right.
But you would think that more black men would have voted for Kamala Harris if that was the case, because if black comes first, then...
Threatening.
Gotcha.
Exactly. And that male chauvinist stuff. I mean, really? You see what it got you? Even if you didn't vote for him, you see what it got you.
Yeah.
But I was shocked because I just knew that women would vote for her. Or that was the way we were led to believe. But
that's how I felt too.
I know. Or even Hillary. You know, a lot of people didn't like Hillary. I liked her. But women really weren't for her either. I don't understand that.
I had issues with Hillary, but I was happy to vote for her. I was very excited for her to be our first woman president.
Well, I wasn't going to vote for her against her.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah.
But I certainly was voting for her against Trump.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And she was strong and she knew her stuff.
Yes.
But the women did not show up for her. I don't get it.
I think a lot of that was that chauvinism as well, because it was... She let Bill Clinton cheat on her. She stayed with him. Whatever the word of the day was.
All of their business is public.
Yeah.
There's a lot of women that do that. But that didn't have anything to do with what she knew about politics. She was a very seasoned woman. But they just dismissed her like, no.
That's something my mom always used to say, and it's changed a little bit now because we don't know what his level of involvement was with the Epstein files. We know that Hillary was innocent, but Bill Clinton's another story. But before all that, one of the things she says, I would not trust him as far as I could throw him as a human being, but he was a great politician.
I'm not married to you, so I don't care. But if you could help me with these laws, that's what we elect you for.
Exactly.
I don't care what you do when the door is shut.
No.
But if you can help me politically,
I'm so glad that you've said that, because that's a problem that people my generation especially have a hard time with, and younger than me as well, that I think that they feel like voting for someone means that you're endorsing everything that they've ever done in their lives. And it's an effort in harm reduction. You are picking the least offensive option. Or the person that, how did I see it put? You're picking your opponent in a boxing match. Who do you think you can win against? Who do you think is easiest to sway to your side and get them to do what you need to be done?
Well, Taylor, you tell me this. You're young, girl.
Younger is correct, yeah.
Tell me what the young people thought about Kamala as opposed to Trump. I'm sure you're out there, so you heard both sides.
I did.
Okay.
It's shameful, and it's a lot of younger people have fallen for the propaganda we've been fed that both sides are the same politically. They've bought it hook, line, and sinker. They also believe that their vote doesn't matter. So they saw an intelligent, educated black woman who knew what she was talking about and wasn't really that funny except for the people who made fun of her laugh, which I thought was very fun. I loved when she laughed. Versus a weird little man who was very easy to turn into memes and TikTok reels. And it was, well, my vote doesn't matter anyway. Let's vote for the funny guy.
Really?
I heard that quite a bit.
Really?
Yeah.
So why do they feel their vote doesn't matter? Is it because of the political climate? Is it because the way things happen, they feel it's stacked or cheated? Or what made them feel that?
That's a really good question. I'll need to do more research on it.
Okay.
But to speak on what I know already, and this isn't a full picture because, like I said, I want to make sure that I'm speaking on facts.
I understand.
It's because of a lot of the gerrymandering and the lack of education, especially in this specific region of the country. Because, nobody around here is dumb. They might act dumb.
Right. But
we know how few opportunities we get compared to the rest of the country. We know how isolated we are, both politically and economically. The fact that I always bring up is that people here didn't really suffer from the Great Depression because we were already in a depression. So you'll talk to people who went through that, whether they were Black, white, Latino, Asian, Native American, or anything. they were all struggling already. So when the Great Depression hit, it didn't really matter to them any.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, because nobody had stocks, nobody had big businesses. They had small family stores. And what was it? The Waltons. That was the closest experience they had, was just, we had to walk a little bit further to get our groceries, or certain things weren't available, and that was it. And that experience didn't really change much from the 1930s to the 2020s. And instead of seeing that and going, well, maybe I could be part of the solution, they saw, well, it's a problem that's never going to end then, so what's the point of fighting?
Oh, settling.
Yes, exactly. Settling. Back to your point, definitely settling. But it's also, and I've mentioned this to our other admins for the podcast before, I was 6 when 9/11 happened, and that changed us. I think that left a mark on us. We saw the president declare war on a country that had nothing to do with it, not catch the guy who did it, and then send many of our relatives there. One of my cousins was a Marine in Iraq for a couple of years, just for no reason, and we knew it was no reason.
Right.
We also saw Al Gore win an election and then not fight for it when George Bush did what he did in Florida. And I think that a lot of people became very politically disenfranchised from that and very jaded very quickly.
Okay.
And I
see that. I see that.
Yeah. And I had the opposite experience. I had parents who were like, it is your civic duty to vote.
Right.
And it's so important for you to vote. And my parents didn't agree on politics growing up. And they didn't, I wouldn't say that they were terribly educated about it, but again, that was lack of experience, not because they weren't smart people. Education is not equal intelligence. But they knew enough to know that it was important for me to know that my voice had to matter. And I don't think a lot of kids had that.
And they still don't, because I can talk to some young people now and say things and I'm like, oh, well, Miss Janet, oh, well, it's going to affect you, not me. But they don't seem to get it.
It's also part of instant gratification. And that's, I'm holding up my phone right now. You can blame these little boxes for that.
Right. Okay.
And I'm not one of those anti-technology people. I work in IT, or IT adjacent, rather. I have a great love for technology. I love working with it. But there is a definite downside of technology that we've studied psychologically. There's so many articles about it that are empirically researched that having a box in your hand that gives you anything you want at the press of a button is not good for the human brain.
Yeah.
And I was just having this conversation with someone online a few days ago that they said something to the effect of, things haven't gotten better in 50 years. It's not changed. And just in general, I made the comment, oh, so I didn't realize that we still had segregated drinking fountains. I didn't realize that women still had to get their husband's permission to get a credit card. I didn't realize that abortion was, something that you didn't talk about and was hush hush, and maybe you'd have a special episode of a TV show every now and then. That was it. I didn't realize that trans people were beat in the streets and had to take bricks to people's faces to get bare minimum human rights. And I'm not saying it's better in a way that's substantial, but it's not that bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But they don't see it happen like that. They don't see it happen in front of their eyes. And if they can't see it like that with that instant gratification, I don't think that they think it's real.
Okay. That's interesting.
I have lots of thoughts and opinions on this.
Well, I just wanted to know, because young people or younger, I'm like, oh, well, whatever. But it's going to affect you.
Yeah.
That's what they don't see.
This is their lives. This is our lives. But, to your point, that's one of the reasons that I wanted to have you on here and other women of color, not just Black women, but, especially Black women, but also people of every race, religion. I want to have them on here because I think that the more we listen to each other, the more we learn. And whether a perspective is correct to our own opinion, you still learn something from listening to somebody else. And I think it's easier to figure out what is wrong, if there is an incorrect opinion, when we know where it's coming from.
Like you said, talk about it. We need to talk about it and discuss. There's no right or wrong. I mean, if you were taught that, I can't say, well, they were wrong for they were taught that. So it's no right or wrong. But if you don't ever discuss it and get it out there with everything, politics, the racism, bisexuality, the abortion, all of that, you have to talk about it.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing hurts to talk about it.
No, the only thing that might hurt is your ego if you embarrass yourself.
Well, you're right. But you'll get over that.
Yeah.
Right.
Embarrassment's a lot easier to get over than racial hatred.
Yes.
And sexual discrimination.
Yes.
And everything else.
Yes.
Well, we've been running long. I'm going to try to wrap this up. That is not your fault. I'm very so grateful for the perspective that you've given us with this. But speaking of the generational divide, there's something I wanted to ask you. We were just talking a few weeks ago. We had a conversation about you going to visit your daughter. Mm-hmm. And you told me something that, what was it you said? You said something like, you admire younger women for how strong we are. Mm-hmm. And I said something back like, we're only strong because you raised us to be strong. Mm-hmm. I didn't get the chance to follow up on that then, but is that something you agree with? Do you think that, despite everything that we talked about with the generational divide, do you think that your generation of women raised my generation to be stronger, or do you think we still got a lot of work to do?
I think they're stronger. I do. I think younger women now are more educated. I think younger women are more determined. They're not settling. My girls tell me all the time, Mama, I'm not going to work all my life like you do. In other words, I'm going to do this, this, and this where I can retire early. When I was coming up, that's what we did. Mm-hmm. We worked at the same place and then we retired and all. But I think younger women are more bold. They're upcoming. They get along better. And I say that because I think younger the races, get along better younger. At my age,
I can see that for sure.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yes. I just think, and that may be simple exposure.
I think it is. It is.
It just may be exposure. My kids have gone more places than I have, and they're that young. But we weren't afforded that. We had to stay, and we had to work, and we had to do this and do that. So I think younger women are way stronger. They're not going to let men tell them, you can't do this. They're not. They're just not, especially if they're educated women. I just don't see, and young women now, they don't have all those children like the generations did not. They have what they want. Mm-hmm. It's a way to prevent all that now.
Yeah.
I do. I think they if they want to know something, they find out and they go get it, whether they have a man or not.
But I want you to take some credit for that because you broke the barriers that got us there. And I'm talking to you. I'm talking to my parents. I'm talking to the other admins on our podcast. I'm talking to every older generation.
But you have to be. My oldest one told me yesterday, she said, Mama, you raised us to be so strong. And in a way, that wasn't right. Because we feel like we have to do it. You have to achieve it. You have to get it. You don't have room for the okie dokie. You've got to get it.
You've got to excel.
But like I told them, and my mother told me, if I don't prepare you to do this, that, or the other, she always used to say, nobody loves your children like you do.
Yeah.
In other words, if something happens to me, what are y'all going to do? You've got to be able to sustain and take care of yourself. Don't depend on a man. Don't depend on anybody. You've got to do it. And I see young women like that too. I do. I mean, all women. I should have said the other one.
You're fine. I know exactly what you meant.
Several.
Yeah.
All races of younger women. They're bold. And I love that.
I do too. I love
bold.
Seeing women. I have such a bad habit of saying sorry about everything. Mm-hmm. It makes me so happy when I see a woman who doesn't apologize.
Mm-mm. No.
Just exists.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're on the right track. Well, where with things with my age, I'm 63, so it's things that we weren't allowed to say, or it wasn't ladylike, or it wasn't this.
And now who cares?
Now, if you're on some of these, they're going to tell you about it.
Mm-hmm.
Where we would just be like, well, okay.
You settled.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
And we are done settling.
That's right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the questions I've asked all of the participants on this show in one form or another has been, what's the hardest thing you've had to deal with being a woman in this part of the country? And I'm going to ask you the same thing, but I also want to follow it up with what's been one of your joys in life as a woman? I feel like that's a question that we, and me especially, need to be asking more often, especially of Black women, because we do not focus enough on Black joy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, it's so odd for Mother's Day. Someone asked me that yesterday. And the biggest joy of being a woman, parent, Black woman, was seeing my girls successful. If I dropped dead tomorrow, I had no fear that they couldn't make it. That's an accomplishment for me. You want them prepared and all. So as a Black mother parent, that's the biggest joy for me. It really is. It really is, because you got to make it. You can't depend on it. You cannot. And even though my youngest one is engaged, you cannot depend on anyone.
She is staring into your soul right now through me.
So that's, and I even try to tell girls that aren't mine. See, that's how driven I am with that. You have got to do this, and this. So, yes, but I don't really feel like I've had any thing that I may not necessarily have wanted because of my race. Now, again, maybe my parents were a shield and didn't tell me. But after I got in the working world and all, but again, we had to get it. So
yeah,
I don't think there's anything that I could have had that I didn't, that if I wanted it.
I'm happy to hear that. I know that that's not an experience that a lot of women, a lot of Black people, a lot of Black women especially get to say. So I'm glad that for you, at least, you don't have any regrets about that.
Not that I can think of.
Let's come back.
Yes, not that I could think of right now. I really don't.
Well,
but it's all in perspective too. I've never been one to waller and stuff. I
think that's maybe one thing that my generation needs to get better about, is not dwelling on the hardships and learning how to forge ahead.
Keep going. Just keep going.
On that note, I can't think of anything better to end it with. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for talking with me about this.
Thank you, Taylor, for having me.
Of course. And anytime you want to come back, you are always welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.